Hello, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. I'm your host, Michma Bersahan. On the news, Mongolia today. Mongolia's budget revenue has decreased by 1.2 trillion MNT, reaching 6.1 MNT trillion, compared to the previous year. The process of allowing coal exports through special border point gates will be organized promptly. The number of aircraft transiting through Mongolian airspace has been reduced by half. For the news, stay tuned. The National Statistics Office of Mongolia has released the country's socioeconomic indicators for March. According to the report, consumer goods prices nationwide rose by 9.1% compared to the same period last year, and by 0.3% compared to the previous month. Regionally, prices of consumer goods in the western provinces increased by around 8%, while service sector prices in the capital surged by over 20%. Another issue drawing attention is the decline in the state budget revenue, which has been highlighted as a matter of concern.
In the first quarter of 2025, Mongolia's total budget revenue and aid amounted to 6.4 trillion MNT, marking a 16.2% decrease compared to the same period last year. Balanced revenue and aid reached 6.1 trillion MNT, down by 16% year-on-year. As a result, total expenditure and net lending reached 6.5 trillion MNT, leading to a budget deficit of 353 billion MNT. The decline in budget revenue was mainly driven by reductions in key tax sources. Corporate income tax fell by 540 billion MNT. Value-added tax decreased by 63 billion MNT. And revenue from mineral resource royalties dropped by 783 billion MNT.
In the first quarter of 2025, Mongolia's budget revenue totaled 8.5 trillion MNT, a decrease of 1.1 trillion MNT or 16% compared to the same period last year. Revenue from other taxes and fees dropped by 803 billion MNT or 37%. The main contributor to the decline was 544 billion MNT or 21% drop in income tax revenue. Meanwhile, social insurance income rose by 265 billion MNT or 29%, and revenue from foreign operations increased by 42 billion MNT or 12%.
Consumer goods prices increased by 9.1% compared to the same period last year. Within this, prices for food, beverages, and water rose by 8.4%. Housing, electricity, and fuel by approximately 22%, education services by 18.2%, and hotel, restaurant, and dormitory services by 14.6%. These increases, compared to the same period of the previous year, significantly contributed to the inflation rate reaching 9.1%.
The National Statistics Office also reports inflation figures for the provinces. This month, Hovd province recorded the highest inflation rate at 17%. In provinces with universities and higher education institutions, tuition fees increases have contributed to the overall rise in prices. In the case of Hovd province, the hike in university tuition fees was the main factor driving inflation. This impact is expected to persist throughout the year.
In the first 3 months of 2025, Mongolia traded with 128 countries, with total foreign trade turnover reaching $5.6 billion. Of this, exports accounted for $3 billion and imports for $2.5 billion, resulting in a trade surplus of about $465 million.
As budget revenue has declined, there is a need to increase the coal transportation, which is a key export product. In response, the government has issued a decree outlining measures to boost exports. Additionally, attention has been focused on increasing foreign currency reserves, which as of today have reached 5.2 USD billion.
Due to the decline in coal prices and the uncertainty of future prospects, the key export checkpoint, the Gansmot border, has seen a backlog in coal unloading and loading areas, resulting in decrease in exports. In the first quarter of this year, Mongolia's coal exports totaled 17.5 million tons, a 3.3% decrease compared to the same period last year. Furthermore, the drop in coal prices has harmed the trading of mining products on the exchange. Эрдэнэс 5 толгой GSC organized a total of 47 exchange trading sessions in the first quarter of 2025, of which 12 were successful and 35 were unsuccessful. As a result, to increase Mongolia's overall coal exports, support the exchange trading of mining products, and protect foreign currency reserves, a decree has been issued to allow the coal sold under long-term contracts with Эрдэнэс 5 толгой GSC to be transported through a special route at the border.
Today, the government will hold a meeting and implement 10 comprehensive measures. It will also submit the necessary bills to Parliament. The government is working to address urgent issues such as diversifying the economy and, of course, increasing exports.
As of the 15th of this month, the official foreign exchange reserves of Mongolia have reached $5.2 billion, increasing by over $230 million compared to the previous week. To further enhance foreign currency inflows, a working group presented measures to increase coal exports, including providing green corridors, allocating land in border areas, and boosting border crossing capacity. The government has discussed and made decisions on these measures in a draft resolution.
First and foremost, the exchange rate level is important. However, it's crucial to bring foreign exchange reserves to a risk-free level and maintain them stably. Therefore, the policy of protecting our foreign exchange reserves is a top priority, and we are staying committed to our goal.
The total budget revenue has decreased. However, export revenue reached $278 million this week, marking a 70% increase compared to the previous week. This growth was primarily driven by coal exports, which reached 1.9 million tons, a 25% increase. From this, it can be concluded that increasing coal transportation remains one of the most critical issues at present. Last week, 758,000 tons of coal were exported through the Shivehuren border point, the highest since the beginning of the year. On the other hand, coal exports through the Hank border point decreased by 32% compared to the same period last year, totaling 1.4 million tons. The working group is taking relevant measures to increase exports.
Air traffic over Mongolia has halted since its peak in 2017 to 2018, mainly due to the pandemic and ongoing geopolitical tensions. Authorities expect a rebound and are preparing system upgrades and staff training.
The Air Traffic Management Center provides safe and reliable navigation services to international aircraft. At its peak, between 2017 and 2018, between 400 to 500 aircraft transited through Mongolian airspace daily. However, according to officials, that number has now decreased to just over 200 aircraft per day. In 2019, with the global outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of flights passing through Mongolia's airspace dropped dramatically by 60 to 70 flights per day. While the volume began to recover 3 years later, the Russia-Ukraine conflict once again contributed to a decline. Due to that, foreign airlines have been unable to use Russian airspace, which has impacted transit through Mongolia. As of today, 90% of the flights passing through Mongolia's airspace are routes between Southeast Asia and Europe or vice versa. The remaining 10% include flights from China to Russia, China to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong to the United States.
According to data we received yesterday, there were 201 transit flights recorded that day. So, moving forward, once the global geopolitical situation stabilizes, especially with the end of conflicts, we anticipate a surge in air traffic. To prepare for that, we are planning updates to our technology, training human resources, and other improvement initiatives. Previously, aircraft entering from the south used to fly over our territory directly. Now, however, due to current sanctions and airspace restrictions, these aircraft are rerouting, flying over Chinese territory, then around our southern border via Kazakhstan before heading to Europe or the United States. Once the sanctions are lifted, we expect flight traffic to return.
Air traffic controllers are tasked with ensuring the safety of aircraft transiting through Mongolian airspace. In other words, they direct the planes to prevent mid-air collisions. According to international standards, countries are entitled to charge a fee for this service. In Mongolia's case, the length of Mongolian airspace ranges from 680 kilometers to 1,300 kilometers, and Mongolian charge between 25 to 96 US dollars for every 100 kilometer flown. This means that, on average, Mongolia collected about 1,000 to 1,500 US dollars per aircraft for airspace navigation services.
5 to 10 minutes before an aircraft enters Mongolian airspace, it receives clearance based on its altitude at a designated entry point. Once cleared, the aircraft is under continuous air traffic control from our team throughout its entire transit over Mongolia. That means we provide full instructions, adjusting speed, altitude, lateral separation to ensure all aircraft avoid collision. Our peak traffic hours are between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. At present, however, that workload has considerably decreased.
Mongolia has been transferring the overflight air navigation fees into the state budget. For example, between 2017 and 2019, a total of 360 billion Mongolian tugriks was collected. In 2023, it was 16 billion MNT, and it is projected that 80 billion MNT will be collected in both 2024 and 2025.
When we first initiated the modernization of this technology in 1996, we received a certain amount of loan funds from the Asian Development Bank. So, last year, together with the Ministry of Economy and Development, we fully repaid that loan. Therefore, starting from next year, since the loan repayment is complete, we see an opportunity to allocate the air navigation revenues directly towards the navigation services themselves.
Going forward, if the air navigation service fees are spent within the sector, the funds will be used for upgrading the skills of professionals and modernizing technical systems, which would improve the quality of services.
Here are the currency exchange rates provided by the Mongol Bank. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We will see you next week with more news and updates. Have a great weekend.